Shalom, today's Daf Yomi is Shabbos Daf Mem Tes, Shabbos 49. And today's Daf Yomi, we're continuing with our discussion on Mem Tes Amud Aleph with the prohibition of Hatmana, that you're not allowed to wrap something. Our Gemara has taught us on Friday afternoon, you're not allowed to wrap a food if it's going to increase heat as a result of this wrapping, and you would not be allowed to leave it like that even on Shabbos itself. And on Shabbos itself, you're not allowed to wrap something if it will even if it will only just maintain the heat. So what are those things that you're allowed to wrap on the eve of Shabbos? So in this context, our Mishnah on Mem Tes Amud Aleph tells us, Tomnin b'chsus, you're allowed to wrap something in a garment because we don't believe that garment is going to add heat. And also beperos, you're allowed to wrap it in fruits, like for example in wheat or something like a lentil. Bekanfeyona, you're allowed to wrap it with the feathers of a dove. Ubenisoris shel harashim, and these are the wood shavings of a carpenter. Ubenoros shel pishtin daka, and also with the matches that fall out of the flax when you comb it. So all these things you're allowed to wrap it with it. However, Rabbi Yehuda oser bedaka, because Rabbi Yehuda prohibits with the thin ones because it adds on heat, umatir bagasa, but he allows it with the thick ones. And the Gemara is going to explain that Rabbi Yehuda is only arguing about the last case, discussing whether or not Rabbi Yehuda is arguing about the case of the shavings of the flax, or also with the wood shavings. In this context of us learning about that you're allowed to wrap it with the feathers of a dove, Gemara tells us a story about Rabbi Yanai. Amar Rabbi Yanai, Tefillin tzrichin guf naki ke'Elisha bal kanafayim. So Rabbi Yanai says that tefillin require a clean body, that when a person wears the tefillin, they're required to have a clean body, like Elisha, who was called bal kanafayim, the master of wings. Maihi, why was Elisha called the master of wings? And what's the intent of Rabbi Yanai to say that? Aren't all the men required to wear tefillin, not just somebody who's a tzaddik like Elisha? So Abaye explains what Rabbi Yanai was saying. He was saying that a person should not put on the tefillin unless they can be certain that a person can be certain that he's not going to have flatulence with that while wearing the tefillin. And Elisha was so careful about that. Rava says no, that Rabbi Yanai is teaching us that a person can only wear the tefillin if they're certain that they're not going to fall asleep with them, because if the person will fall asleep with them, they're not going to be in control over their body and they cannot maintain that their body is clean. So why was Elisha called the master of wings? What's the reasoning? The Gemara explains the following story. Shapam achas gazar malchus romi harsha'a gzeir al Yisrael. One time the wicked Romans made a decree upon the Jewish people, shekol hamenichin tefillin inakaras mocho, that anybody who will wear tefillin, they were going to pierce his head, especially in the place where he wore the tefillin. And that's why this was a decree on the tefillin of the head, but not a decree upon the tefillin of the hand, because the tefillin of the head are the ones that are visible, but the tefillin of the hand is private, it's covered up. So nevertheless, even though this was the concern, Elisha menicham v'yotze l'shuk, Elisha wore his tefillin and he went out into the marketplace. Rahu kazdur echad, so a Roman officer saw that Elisha was wearing his tefillin. Ratz panav, and when he was running after Elisha, Elisha ran away from him. And when he was running away from him, Kivin she'igia etzlo, the Roman officer arrived at him. Natra mirosho v'achazam biyado. Elisha took them off and he put them in his hands. Commentaries discuss, how could Elisha have taken them off? We know that you're not allowed to violate Jewish law if it's a time of persecution. So how is he able to take them off if that's a violation of Jewish law? And even though they're generally speaking, we say that you're not supposed to give up your life except for 3 major sins. In this case, if it was specifically part of the persecution, it should have been prohibited for him to remove the tefillin. So one of the answers is that he took them off, and this is the answer of the Chasam Sofer, that he took them off because Actually, the Or Zarua says this in the 13th century. He says he took them off because otherwise he was concerned that if he had been captured, he wouldn't have been able to keep his body clean, because normally speaking, when a person gets stressed out, their body releases all sorts of fluids or other reactions. And so therefore, that's why he removed the tefillin. So the officer of the Romans was right next to him, and Elisha took off his tefillin and he put them in his hand. Natan mirosho v'achazam biyado. He put them in his hand. So Amar lo, maza biyadcha. The officer says, "What do you have in your hands?" And Elisha responds, "I have kanfei yona." He says, "I have the wings of a dove." Upashadas yado. He opened up his hand, v'nimtzu kanfei yona, and he found the wings of a dove there. Afikach koronos Elisha val kanafayim. That's why he's called Elisha, the master of the wings. And the Gemara asks, so why are the wings of the dove different from other birds? And Gemara explains, Misham de imtol knesses leYisrael yona, because the Jewish people are compared to a dove. As it states, Kanfei yona nechapa bakesef, the wings of a dove are covered with silver. Ma yona kinafeh meginos aleh, just like a dove, its wings cover it. So to the Jewish people, Af Yisrael mitzvos meginos aleh. So to Jewish people, the mitzvos cover us and protect us. And the Ritva says, on the basis of this Gemara, we have a strong custom that a person should wrap the tefillin of their head to look like the wings of a dove. He says not the tefillin of the hand, because the tefillin of the hand, which was not the source of this miracle, you're supposed to wrap to look like a yud. However, others say that both the tefillin of the head and the tefillin of the hand should be wrapped to look like the wings of a dove.